Gemini 3.5 and their pushback. Tidal has released a new policy or an update to their AI policy. OpenAI, their new GPT 5.6 has come out, but it's not out to everyone yet. And we're going to talk about what's going on with that. What's up? Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Autonomous Income. I'm your co-host, Deuce Noble.
And I'm your co-host, DJ. What's going on today, Deuce?
Today, as always, there's lots of things going on. So we're bringing y'all some quick updates that we've been seeing. And we're going to talk about a little bit about Gemini 3.5 and their pushback. Also, OpenAI, their new GPT 5.6 has come out, but it's not out to everyone yet. And we're going to talk about what's going on with that. And then we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of fun. Tidal has released a new policy or update to their AI policy about how they're going to proceed with that. So just a couple things to talk about today. DJ, what you think? What you want to hit on first?
Man, I think we should jump directly into Google because we were looking forward to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so to give context, Google announced at I/O that their 3.5 Pro model will be launching sometime, like they said, in June. They just gave it the whole month. And today, being the last day of June, they announced earlier today that they give some reason, why they were reducing. I can go over, but basically they're saying that, that they weren't releasing the model. And I think what really the internets, the interwebs, and everybody kind of, upset about it a little bit is because this isn't the first time that they've announced something at Google I/O didn't actually come at a date. And Deuce and I, with our background, in software development and, product management and all of these things, like those delays do happen, but on a stage, I guess, as big as Google I/O and like you being that major company, like, it stings a little bit and people are excited, really about the product. Like me, I'm just excited to use it, leverage it. I want to see the benchmarks and all the things and like see it in its performance. And I like 3.5 Flash, the model that they have right now. So I can't wait. But Deuce, kind of, what's your 2 cents? What's your take? What do you kind of feel about Google and their announcements?
So, of course, we all know those stages and those conferences, they are pretty big. And, there's going to be rumors and whispers about, man, we wasn't ready yet. However, Sundar Pichai said that it was not ready yet when Google I/O happened. However, I almost want to speculate Google I/O happening, and then a few weeks later, of course, WWDC or WWDC took place and Apple had their announcements. Who knows? Google might push back their stuff to tweak a few things to make sure it is solid and bulletproof for whatever Apple has up their sleeve, especially because we know that the new Apple Intelligence and Siri is coming with Google Gemini. So I think they're adding a few more layers of something, a little bit of a splash or whatever to make it even more. But also, this does happen, right? If you think about it not being ready yet, and it's supposed to be the most prolific model that they have come out with, and they're gathering more feedback from early testers, tweaking a few things, cleaning up a little bit of cobwebs.
Yeah.
Right. I think that it is going to be it's going to be hard to beat, right? That's what I think. I
Yeah.
think they had to make a separate Siri wrapped Gemini for Apple. And then they came back was like, we're going to make this 3.5 even better for everyone else. That's my 2 cents on it, DJ, but I don't know.
I mean, everybody, so, Polymarket, online and everybody, like I guess go in there and they try to predict what's going to happen and all that. It was a 97% probability on yes, that they would be waiting until June 30th to release. And so that's also why, because Polymarket's a big thing now where everybody goes on there and kind of votes and they try to pick a date or whatever speculation that they hear. Either way, I mean, that was like the thing. So that's what kind of, started that off a little bit too, but they did officially confirm the delay. And they were citing reportedly that they need to incorporate feedback from early developers on excessive token consumption during complex long horizon agentic tasks. So I think Business Insider was one of the ones that cited that basically, and I can confirm that. But either way, I mean, that's pretty much what it is, Deuce. And we know we were talking about this before. I mean, a lot of these, we keep talking about token consumption and all those other things. You have to have efficient models at this point, right? I mean, we see the ones that are efficient. People can actually afford to use them because there's news that recently came out that people are starting to get like co-pilot bills and all this other stuff. And now, companies are getting these big bills, from all their agentic, tasks that have been run and basically the token consumption rate and everything like that is really becoming prominent now. So that's why I think the model, especially the premier model makers, are really hyper-focused on efficiency, essentially.
No, I agree. But it is interesting. If we look at, like you said, these premier models, right? If we talk about Anthropic and their Fable 5 that was taken offline just because the government forced it to shut down, right? And then 5.6, that is out. But however, not everyone has it. But 3.5, albeit delayed, it's almost that last frontier. And we talked about this previously. Like, I really feel that AI bubble is coming to a head sooner rather than later, sometime this year. But with these major frontier AI labs kind of setting up shop, trying to get in where they fit in, especially with Fable Tropic and Claude Fable 5, GPT 5.6, these are going to be some of the best LLMs and models we've seen to date, and we thought we had creme de la creme already. And I think it's going to be interesting. It's really going to reshape that competitive landscape.
Yeah, from 5.5 to 5.6 is supposed to be a major step up. Like it just sounds like a regular nerfed version, if you will, of Mythos. When it comes to 3.5 and Fable 5 and all those things, which we know Fable 5 is like an upgrade, but apparently just the capability and everything. And from what I've seen, it looks like it's drawing comparisons to like Mythos 5 and on like X and you go on the other platforms, you'll see people that claim that they have, access to it and, some of the industry professionals that have access to it and you can kind of see the results out there, but it is looking really good, dude. So that is once we get access to that. I mean, something we'll definitely play around and bring that back with. But just to wrap it up, I mean, yeah, so pretty much with Google, it is interesting. Like I said, it is. There's a lot of good reviews. So if you got, but long story short, I mean, yeah, 5.6 is supposed to be really solid. Anything indicative of just this in general, or if it's just like they wanted to kind of tune it a little bit, I guess their second consecutive major IO commit Google's had issues with delivering on per the schedule that they provided. But, and then also, there's a headhunting that's going around and talent that's kind of moving around. Google, had some people that from there, I think DeepMind basically go to different companies and whatnot. And I don't know if they're because that's their major reasoning model. You know what I mean? So like we definitely want to use that. So that kind of, we're excited. We can't wait to leverage it and all that. And of course, use it into what's going on when it comes on the Google side. What else we got, dude?
Yeah, well, like you said, OpenAI has released 5.6. However, it is not fully out, at least not all of the models under it, right? I think they have three different models. We have Sol, Terra, and Luna under that 5.6 flagship. However, we know that the government did place a little bit of restrictions on GPT 5.6 as well, like they did on Fable 5, due to some security concerns for cybersecurity and some of the cybersecurity benchmarks. However, it's just interesting, right? It's been classified as a high risk thing, which could put the public in, I want to say danger, but put them at risk for having access to certain vulnerabilities based on how those models work. And in the wrong hands, it could be pretty detrimental, right?
Yeah.
But 5.6 has been doing well outside of that. I don't know when it will be fully released, but it is something to keep an eye on. What do you think about that, DJ? Have you looked into it or you've been trying to get around some of those red tape restrictions?
Somebody that was able to get us in when there was that invite only. I think like we were day one, maybe day two or something like that when they were releasing that. But it was no luck for us when it comes to 5.6. And I think this is a different set of rules when it comes to that, man. I mean, like they're really holding that close. And I think, they said what industry, an app, I think you're using Perplexity AI or whatever, right? So we have access to this. But imagine if they have something that can build five or, whatever the case is, right? Like where they could outcompete and you have another entity saying who can have access to that. This is crazy. And, I definitely want our listeners, audiences, you Deuce, like your take on it is like, because it's always this government and AI and like, what we have access to or not. And like, you do want stuff that's regulated and safe, but also is like, does it slow down? Because like, I think what's causing a lot, we're giving government and they get access to all of this, or they can say who doesn't get access to the newest tools that are out there. Like when we start making those bigger increases, like who's to say how long they have it? What Matthew Berman, we mentioned him a lot, like with his channels. I like his take on it, especially from like an engineer and like developer standpoint. And just, like some of the thought out there is just like people that already have advantage, basically can get more advantage by having access to that Deuce, right? Because I mean, like you said the other day, you kind of feel like, who's to say who can get this? But of course, also, you do want it to be safe, right? You don't want people to have access to something and then you see a bunch of cyber attacks or whatever the case is. So what is your take on that?
So like you said, it's a lot of that's deriving, let's say, from Mythos and what Mythos was able to do. But this next wave of limbs really hinge on cybersecurity things, and that's a big topic, right? It's been a national topic for years. I think having restrictions on it, pushing these back really helps you tighten up some of that security. Also, it's just interesting just how much it's going to affect certain rollouts, but also once it does come out, I'd like to see what might happen. Think about it, right? When we talked about when Anthropic dropped Mythos, how many companies was on board to
With the Project
help
Glasswing?
build that project, right? Glass one, yeah. Like you got to think about it. It's crazy now, and like I said, those are some big name companies like all coming together. Like I said,
It is.
this is exactly how Skynet was formed. Right? All these big companies, these conglomerates,
Do you feel like they should do that or they shouldn't? Because like on one hand, like you were talking about before, Deuce, right? Like, do you think for the security of everybody and infrastructure that it should be a handful of companies and then say, hey, we're gonna do our stuff first and then release it? Or do you feel like it should be released to the public because public should have access to all the things that these corporations should be able to leverage as well? Like that's why I think the line is. And what is your personal take on that?
it's hard to put your trust in these companies, but I think somebody should have control of it or a hand on the wheel before releasing it to the wild. And I say the wild as like the public, because granted, you can have a little bit of faith in these companies to do some good. Right. And I only say that in a sense, like you never know what, companies' true intentions are, however they may portray themselves, right? It could be different. However, I'd rather them have control over what goes into it, what goes out of it. And I think it is a good step to see that many big name companies doing that versus whoever with being open source, right? And that's kind of what scares me a little more.
That brings up a great point. Yeah, you brought up open source. That gets into that. Like, because remember, these are frontier models. They're all closed source. All the big three, right? The Gemini's, OpenAI's, and then Anthropic's models, right? And then once you get to some of the other, well, even Meta now with their latest model that they have, MetaSpark or whichever model that is. But anyway, what I'm saying is, it's like, do you think we should have open source? Honestly, I mean, I think that is definitely like ultimately what the people would want for the open source models to be, getting closer and closer to the capabilities of the frontier ones because of token costs and because just everything associated with it and giving everybody equal access. And so that's also what comes into the conversation as well. Yeah, it's tough, man.
I think so. I do think it's great to see that there is a little more seriousness taken with some of these things as far
Yeah.
as the security, as far as everything going on, because I mean, it has been the Wild West with AI and how
But do you
it's
think it's gonna
managed.
slow down? I mean,
In what
because
way?
you got like overseas, you got like with because you brought up AI war, right? Like it was like something you saying like, and we just and we kind of use that because there's been stiff competition. But like if we think on a global scale, I hear a lot of people from the states saying that we want to be first at AGI or whoever gets first at AGI is going to be the quote unquote winner, right? So when we do things like of this nature, does that hinder us on this side versus like the global landscape? So say just pick whatever other country if they're building out their AI infrastructure, what if they get there first or allows them to kind of catch up? And maybe that's not necessarily the case because our frontier labs are still kind of moving it.
It's just interesting because I mean, we talked about I'll call it the AI arms race, right? China had a few good things come out in the last couple of years. We've talked about France doing some stuff, and even there's been some countries in Africa working on some AI, and of course, lots of other countries have been working on their own things that have come out as bigger LLMs,
Hmm.
right? It'll be interesting to see where all the chips fall because, like I said, I do think it is slowing down in a sense. Like, I mean, we're talking about all of the things happening, right?
Hmm.
Matter of fact, I had a couple friends I'm in a investment club with, right? And we talked about a little bit how this AI bubble could potentially slow down because of the amount of excessive money that's being poured into these companies because of these expensive LLMs, right? To run a
Yeah.
full model and everything, it sounds good, but after a while, how can you sustain that? For example, I'll give you a quick example. A lot of companies, these big companies, some government too, but a lot of entities is embedding Copilot into their whole
Yeah.
workforce and their system, right? Which is smart, right? It makes because the LM knows your business in and out, right? And so,
Yeah.
however, while Microsoft pockets are getting fat because of that, it's costing some of those companies a lot of money to do certain tasks and items that did not cost an engineer or a human worker to do that, right? And I think the results are showing. And soon enough, like I said, the chips are going to fall, and we're going to have like right now the big three we always talk about, their frontier models. It's going to be interesting to see because if you think about cybersecurity and some of the tasks that are asked to be performed by these models and some of the tests that they are passing and or failing, which is why some of them have been restricted, it's a
Yeah.
huge impact, right? So I don't know. Like I said, I'm just ready to see where those chips do fall.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, man. But yeah, to keep things moving, what about so Tidal?
And I
They're up
mean,
to
yeah, look,
something.
to change, let's change, just change waves. So, of course, as far as security goes, like I said, this is another thing in the running of like things that is happening that, hey, we need to make an announcement or bring attention to it. So, Tidal, the streaming company, started in partnership with Jay-Z. I think now Block owns it. They announced an update to their AI policy or gave a full-on AI policy. Essentially, Tidal is going to start labeling AI generated music and
Hmm.
also ban royalties for AI song streams, which really
Oof.
is a huge impact for a lot of people, right? If you think about it, artists, but when you think about artists and musicians, like they make their living all things music related, especially nowadays that we're on streaming platforms, right? But
Yeah.
you've done music and DJing parties, so you know, like
Yeah.
prompting a song isn't as hard as actually going into the studio, laying down stuff on tracks, right?
Then having to
Remix, all
punch
of
in
that,
over
right?
that, and yeah, yeah,
You see
it
what I'm
takes
saying?
a
You
lot of
can
time.
get
Yeah.
some software, pay a little bit of money in the grand scheme of things, a little bit of money for your software to write you a couple of songs, and you can make hit records. And however, you might not know, but Tidal has doubled down into protecting their artists and their fans. So they're going to begin labeling in their app when you stream AI generated songs and artists. Yeah, they're not going to be. They're just committed to having an organic experience, right?
Yeah.
But what do you think about that, DJ? Like, because what some of these we've seen and talked about.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we were on this earlier. Like, I think we were talking about like Suno and what was the other one, Udio, and some of the other platforms. Basically, a while like their capabilities have grown, and then oof, we will link it in the chat below. But there was an AI singer that we covered, and we were talking about how she had the hit record that was out and everything like that. But she was actually writing and singing. I think she was giving her voice as a reference or something like that, and then letting the AI kind of take over from there. So she did a lot of the quality work. So that's why this is a sensitive topic for me because one, I'm into music. I've recorded and done a lot of those things as well. So I know it takes time, and you do want to appreciate the artist and the art that goes into it. So I think, Deuce, it's going to be hard because if people are doing all that, if I'm still thinking, because even when you talk to a person that maybe even if they just prompt, right? They had to think of that prompt and put it in. Or, if you prompt something to create a prompt or whatever the case is, it just gets kind of muddy because you can go into one that says, hey, create me a prompt to create a song. And it'll create a prompt and it's long and you can put a song like this, that, and the other, but you're kind of giving the elements of what you're thinking about. Then it takes that and you might tweak it and put it into there. So there's one avenue. Or you might actually write out a full song, right? I mean, you may just like write a song and like there's something that's been on you, but you've never been able to sing. And like just take the time for development. Cause me back in the day producing, like, I can make a beat, but I have to have an artist come record or I send it to them and they record. And then you got to go deal with like the audio and get it mixed and mastered and all those other things.
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not to take away from none of that, but I'm just saying, I guess it's hard because like you might have somebody really putting in thought and just not doing the minimum, and it's not just like all automated. And they're using AI for like the voice. Cause I've heard some really good AI songs. Some of them are funny. I feel like slapping like there's all these songs that are out there and they're hilarious, or some of them are really good. And for them not to have royalties, then we're kind of back in square one where like you're like these people are creative and they're creating new songs and new vibes, but then now we're taking royalties away from them. So I don't like that. But I also don't want artists who really have to like spend that time in the studio recording song by song. If I can go on AI and I can make 20 songs in one day, I can make a whole album in one day. They physically can't, right? Potentially, like it's hard for them to keep up. Then maybe there should be like less monitored. I don't know. I don't want to answer that because people might feel one way or the other. But yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I think two things can be true, right? So, like we said, one thing for sure, Tidal said they will not tolerate is AI generated music that impersonates an artist or group or any of that. So, if you're already an artist and you generate music that's fraudulently sounding like someone else, right? That's really impressing on their image, right, and their likeness, right? So that's one thing. I agree with that, right? Like you should. I wouldn't tolerate that either, right? That's
yeah. I mean, you got to
yeah.
protect
So
people's IP, like individuals'
of
IP. Yeah,
course. Yeah. So they are going to have tools. They plan to have tools to remove those types of releases. However, like you said, with the non-monetized songs for AI generated, they said they're not going to allow music that is 100% AI generated to be monetized. I also don't necessarily agree with that just because of the effort. I know. However, if this is possible, I also don't agree with it being AI generated music to be in competition with legitimate, well, with real artists. And the thing is, granted, I feel that obviously someone is making this music, right? They're sitting down, having to, play now. It's not just as simple as you think. Is it easier? Yes. However, I feel like it could be its own category, its own
That's what I'm
almost
saying. Yeah, do you think the
genre or something
Billboard?
like, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
has to be. I think now we're still early in the seat of AI generated music, and you got to think.
But
I
where's the
think
line gonna be at, dude?
so I'm gonna use this as a reference of like you've seen, and I know you've seen it. You've seen how everyone has been dropping these flyers, and they all look the eerily same, but AI generated flyers, invitations, everything, right? It is getting to
Man,
me out of
my
hand.
mom's on there, and she just did one for my birthday, had my baby nickname
You
and
know what I'm
everything.
saying? Like
I was like, I
they
said,
all have that
unhand AI.
same look and they all have that
Yes.
same look and feel. Listen, and I'm thinking that, all right, designers, how do y'all feel? Like graphic designers, like they have to do so much more to make it. But the thing is it going to get to, so I'm using that as an example. If AI generated music, is it going to have that same sound and feel where everything is similar, or will it be its own unique sound? Yeah, and I feel
I
like
mean,
because if you look
I
at
can sometimes pick up on like some of the it's like I don't know what it is. It's like a some kind of filter or some kind of I don't know, something that you can
so
kind of hear
it's
like
it's
where it's
funny
AI.
because every time AI generated voices, I feel like all have some type of a similar cadence in their speech pattern. And it's funny because, for example, my wife, she'll send me some videos or a reel or something, and she's like, "Oh my God, look at this," or "Oh, look at this." And every time I can hear it, I'm like, "No, this is AI." Well, however, the story might be true, but it was she sent me. It was like, you ever seen one of those videos like AI news? I kind of have a feeling like, as it's hard to tell because a lot of, even though it's AI generated, the song may be good, it may be a hit, maybe a bop, whatever.
See, but on the songs though, on the songs you can give it a reference. So like you and me can go in there and like in a
You
booth,
can,
you
but
can
you can
record
tell
Deuce,
though,
and
right?
then I mean, so that's the thing is like some of those ones like something Monet, I think it was the AI artist name of the song that kind of blew up. Let Go, Let God or something like that. Like that song, and there was some other song. But anyway, they use a reference voice and like on those you can it really sounds like professional quality and everything because I think but if you just go in there and prompt it and you just let it go off of one run and get it mixed and mastered and don't kind of tweak it, then yeah, of course you can kind of pick up on some of the stuff. See, AI video outside of singing and music, that does have like some kind of the where you can almost usually tell like it's like that it's AI audio. But the singing and all of those, that's getting better and better, dudes. Like that's getting like where you can, sometimes you can't tell or like you really have to be paying attention to it. But yeah, I don't know. It's getting
What's
interesting.
what's
I just
interesting
think
about it,
I can't
it is
find
an
that
interesting
line.
topic. That line
Yeah,
is very, very skewed.
it
So
is.
for those of you listening, are you guys, let me ask you this, DJ.
Yeah.
So let's say an AI artist drops a full album. You play that joint on
Yeah.
repeat and it go
I
and
mean,
but
yeah.
here's the other line though. And I know they've had this before listening farms and all that, right? You can up those streams easily with AI now, those streams. But let me ask the listeners, are y'all listening to a full album that's AI produced music? All
I
right.
mean, if
Like,
it's
I
solid,
mean,
I heard well AI song today is called "She Don't Play About Me." If you go, whatever music they like, and it's a good like, you can tell somebody, but you won't know. Like, did they write it? Did they have the AI kind of write it and they just gave it the concept? Like, you don't know how it came about, but there's a song. Let me see if I can find out who it is. But anyway, it's
but
called
yeah,
"She Don't Play
how
About
do
Me,"
you,
and you can
I
tell
mean,
by
how
the
do you
title.
even challenge like
That's the thing. That's
IP
the line.
rights with
That's
that?
what's
So
hard.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
because like if you take a beat, right, like like yes, this is all AI generated, but like where do they get this beat from? Like, I mean, all right, like there's only so many a plethora of different beats, right? Like there were before you gotta, you're taking a sample from somebody. Right, you know how many samples has been taken from a Beethoven's music, like just a couple
Yeah.
lines of music, right? You know what I'm saying? It'll be. I
I
think
don't
it's
know, man.
interesting all on, but I will say this: salute, and shout out to Tidal for making some hard moves and decisions of dropping this. Right, their AI policy will go into effect July 15th. But of course, it's not going to be perfect. They've admitted that. We know it. They're going to be ironing out as they go. This is going to be a living document for them. It'll be constantly changing. But it's interesting to see. I'm glad that this is something that made waves where, hey, we're trying to make sure there's some guidelines around this, right? We know there's activity happening and we want to protect our artists, protect our fans. Shout out to you guys, musicians. If you're a musician, how do you feel about this, right? How do you feel about the structures being set in place to, coincide with this technological advancement that we have been experiencing?
Yeah, a lot of things to check out. I've been sending it to you, Deuce. But yeah, definitely let us know in the comments what you feel about it. It is a fine line, and not one with music. I mean, I love music, right? I listen to music all the time, and I think, Deuce. I mean, like if you have a person that's putting their thought into it and they're using AI as a tool to kind of help supplement, but they're doing a lot of the, what the song is, what the album layout is. They're creating the art and all that. Really, I mean, like it can speed up a lot of things. But I mean, if you just have somebody just like, one sentence prompting, create me a song about this and then trying to put that together, I'm hoping that the quality will, like the cream will rise to the top. That's what I'm hoping. Like no matter, even if it's AI, but I like what you said about like them having their own genre. I was saying like Billboard 100, maybe they have their own, like they have their
All right,
own
so we
AI
talking
and they have
about
AI
we
country,
talking
AI, all
about
that. Yeah.
in 2028, we're gonna have the first AI generated Grammy winner.
Me,
Hey, the grit.
that's gonna be interesting.
And for the best, the Grammy for the best AI produced song goes to,
Goes to maybe that'll be it,
right?
man.
Hey,
Like you said,
listen,
the own category, right? Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I don't hate that honestly because I mean, like I said, it's like, it's their own genre, whatever, right? You winning Grammys for
yeah,
your music. If it's music, it's kind of music. Hey, if you stream it, but yeah, I'm not with them not paying people for royalties on that one, but maybe they'll
yeah,
change that. But
yeah. I mean,
anyway,
it's still new. Yeah.
let us know what your thoughts are on this, right? And if you guys think Tidal should pay royalties for AI generated music and not. But also, if you guys also have thoughts on what's going on with GPT 5.6 or Gemini 3.5, and if you're looking forward to that, let us know. We're excited. Tell us what you're looking forward to. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And DJ, you got anything else?
No, man, that's it. Let us post it and let us know in the comments. Peace.
We'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.